Well, hello, boys, girls, and those in between. Today we have something very cool for review. We have the Demko Freereign. This is the AUS10A version. They also make it in Magna Cut, and they have it in a variety of blade shapes, but I requested the one with the drop point, clip point, because this is the geometry of knife that I use most often. And if you're a regular on the channel, you will recognize that most of my blade shapes, regardless of whether these are fixed blades, even OTFs, I prefer this blade shape with a belly and sometimes a drop point. I've tested the knife, dropped it back up to even better edge than from the factory, so I was very pleased with that, only with the strop. So let's look at the outside shots. I'm not gonna go over the specifics and the size, etc. If you're looking at the knife, you already know all those details, and this is probably not the first review or not the last review you'll be watching before making your decision. But do make sure that you check out my discount codes, because that will give you 5% off from the Demco website, and I'll see if I can get the same from their Amazon store as well. So check out the descriptions, there will be discount codes and purchase links in there. Check out the outside shots, some abuse content on this, and then we'll come back to conclude. Hello guys, I hope that you can hear me. There's a orchestra of natural sound behind me that I can't do anything about other than move location, but I don't want to move location, so why don't you join in to enjoy these sounds. I will be testing this, beating the hell out of it, and I will compare this to my own modification of a Hogue EXF01. I modified it to be a medium to large size camp knife. I modified the handle because I couldn't use the tactical or whatever confused identity crisis handle that it had. Now it has become one of my favorite camp knives in this size factor, which is, I guess, significantly larger than this, but thickness is almost the same. This is an AUS10A made in Taiwan with this rubber handle, and I do have very high expectations for this knife because of the geometry. It has an extremely comfortable handle, so I will be comparing it to a G10, but also very comfortable my own design handle. And then both are saber ground, so I'll also see how they feel in actual work. And I always deal with wood, so I'll be testing the knife on wood. Got my very cool Maratak bag from Counticom. This thing fits an entire household inside. Okay, now the knife shaves. It does not have a mirror ground edge, which I actually like. I noticed that Demco does not do a very fine grind, even though the knives are sharp as shit, don't get me wrong. But I do like, see, this knife, the Hogue do a very good job of the cutting edge polishing and grinding. This comes mirror polished. I've never had to regrind this blade. It is in A2 tool steel, and all I've done is strop this, and I've used the knife a bunch. So, okay, now this is AUS10A steel, as I've said already, and I try to pick up some of the nastiest pieces of wood because this knife should take it. This is the hardest, the toughest knife that they make at Demco currently. They do have this in Magna Cut as well. That blade, I guess, you can take through hell, but we'll try to torture this one as well. Okay, that was a good split. I get zero vibration in the handle. This is very comfortable. As expected, I wouldn't expect any less from Demco, especially with a full rubber handle, as it seems to be a full rubber mold, no plastic in the middle. I'm not sure that I think I would enjoy, in terms of longevity of the knife, I would enjoy plastic in the middle and then here and on the bottom. Look at the Hultaforce OK4, that the survival knife. Now this is maybe even more comfortable than that, but it would be just that much better if it had a plastic core for the handle. But at this stage, this is very comfortable. Okay, so I am going through, no, it's splitting. This is hard, you see, it's thicker down here, but it's splitting. And regardless of where I hit, I don't have any discomfort. There are no sharp edges. Let me switch the hand. No issues at all. And as you know, batoning does not really damage the blade edge. So we will cross baton just to put the knife through hell. But I want to quickly compare the batoning, how this does. Okay, let's give it a nasty piece. This one, there's a knot here, knot down here, and well, that knot shouldn't count, I guess, but this is all swirled up. And we split the knot. So I mean, I already know that this is a good batoner. I'm just comparing it to the Demco in this case. And both are doing very well. I really can't say, I mean, this is G10, it's not rubber, but because of the ergos that I've put on it, it's as comfortable, I would say, as the Demco, and it is splitting just as well. But this is my perfect knife for this type of chores in this size factor. So this is a very hard knife to beat or compete against. Okay, so why don't you come close and take a look at this piece of marble. That should be a very nasty piece to split. As you can see, I barely have a tip to baton on. Let's do this way, because I do need to hit it right. Right away, it's not wanting to go through. Let's try it with this one. Same exact cut. Now this is a longer blade, obviously. Come on, man. Don't let me down now. And it split it. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, can you come in close? I was hitting, so that's not the Demco's fault at all, actually, because it started cutting and then I went through with the other knife. So you see, we started right in the beginning. There was a rather sizable knot. So let's do this side with the Demco now. Damn, man. Let's do this. That's thick. So there was a knot. We're not knocking on Demco here. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah, no issues. It's going in. And it's split. Almost.
It's not too bad. No.
There we go. No issues. So it is, I would say, doing as I would expect it to do. Considering, I think I'm going through another knot here. No, just hardwood. So, considering the fact that it is a Demco. The thickness, the saber grind, and the rubber handle, I expected it to do very well, and it is doing very well. Another gnarly piece. All of my wood is hardwood. Again, I use it for smoking. Offset smoking, meat smoking. Toby! Playful. Yeah, the handle is quite comfortable.
A few moments later.
Now, if you were camping, you would never be doing this stuff normally, right? None of what I'm doing here is normal use. This is all abuse, and this is extreme situations. You would not normally be batoning this type of wood with a knife. You don't need to, is what I'm trying to say. And do not think all these YouTube videos that you watch of people going through piles of wood and batoning them. See, even out here in nature, we get interrupted with technology. Catch that one. That's a local crow. If you're surviving especially, right, or even camping, you don't do this other than, I don't know, if you just enjoy batoning with a knife, sure, but you don't even cut down smaller pieces, especially if you're surviving. You just gather wood and you start a small fire, and then you just throw whatever branches you find, and you feed the fire with the remainder of the branch. Once it burns, you kind of slide it in and stuff. So this is all bullshit. Do not think that you're gonna be batoning a pile of wood out in the woods. I mean, you could be, you shouldn't be though. This is all just fun, you know. So I'm going to break down a lot of wood. Then let's cross baton. Let's cross baton this hardwood. Actually, instead of cross batoning, I'll just do this. Now this knife shaves. If a knife shaves, I'm happy. So it shaves right now, and after I abuse the blade, which I would never do normally, I'll try to shave again, and if it shaves again, I'm happy. Now, as for, I don't do 300 cuts, 600 cuts, and comparisons of different steels. I have Google for that, and I just compare. I do like my blades, even though, you know, woods blades, camp blades, I do like above 60, ideally 61, 62, especially with Magna Cut that has become possible. So I know what those steels can do. I like M390, I like S35VN, and I like Magna Cut, I guess. So this is hardwood, and I'll just whack these different places with the edge. Now, if you think that batoning like this, cross batoning, cross grain batoning, strains the blade more than what I'm doing, you're welcome to argue, but I think smacking the blade, because the way I'm doing it is irregular. I'm actually holding it down here and whacking this, and the blade also twists a bit. So, and plus the whacking action is no less than putting it on and then batoning. I would actually argue that I am straining the blade even more than cross batoning. Again, I am doing this cross grain. Let's do the bark part. It's actually a decent chopper. You see how I'm holding it? I'm all the way down with 2 fingers. And this is the best chopping action that I get. I guess I could do it this way, but I don't get as much swing, but the grip is quite assuring and comfortable. I don't fear it sliding out. I don't use lanyards. If I get tired with one hand, I switch because I'm ambidextrous, I guess. I use both hands almost equally. So if this hand gets tired, I'll just switch the hand. Now I'll go flat side. Shaved a bunch. I definitely had some impact on the blade. It's not shaving as clean anymore. Again, this is no easy task. 1, 2, 3, and then I cross batoned it, like smacked it like this quite a few times. All of this is hardwood. So
It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
see, these notches are confusing for me. This jimping does not look like a functional thumb jimping, but it could be I'll test, it could be a good fire steel striker. So we'll see. Oh, that's a nice feather. I've shown in my video before, this is doing fine, I guess, and you can change the way this blade behaves by reshaping, reprofiling, or during your resharpening. But as is, as you can see, I'm getting some feathers, albeit they're not very thin. And what I do like and prefer to this, and I find it much quicker, is just to scrape feathers with a 90-degree sharp spine. So I want to see how this knife does with it. And I will show you that this actually, yeah, it's doing quite well. I just continued. So I will show you that this actually results in much finer feathers. So can you come in close? You see, this is thick, and though I use a lighter to light this, but a fire steel scraping spark may have a hard time catching that. And also, not everybody knows how to feather stick, but everybody can hold the knife and scrape with a 90-degree spine. And you see these very fine shavings. That is from the spine, which is much thinner. You see, it's almost like dust, much thinner than the feathers. You see? Plenty of shavings over there. I have another Demco, and I'm interested to see how that feather sticks. This is the Andrew Demko AD20.5 S35VN steel. Taiwan made. Blew me away with engineering. Andrew Demko has put a lot of design elements, and for a fixed blade, hard use knife, I don't know any other that stacks up to this knife. This one I like a lot. I would love to have this in MagnaCut and test that out. So this is S35VN. I've been playing around with this for almost 2 weeks now, just to get acquainted with the ergos and with the mechanics. And it's a awesome knife. So this one is actually giving me significantly thinner feathers than the Freereign. Do consider that the Freereign is differently ground with the MagnaCut steel. The saber grind comes up higher, and I don't know, but I would guess that the angle may also be different because that is MagnaCut, and it can take a thinner edge. Yeah, this one is doing pretty thin feathers and very nice controlled cut. Yeah, this is pleasant. Well, this one I will conclude on the desk. But as I said, it's a bitter knife that is comfortable. Sheath is quite comfortable as well. And it is a dependable knife. Let's do some tip testing. It is a dependable knife. I don't think it would break or disappoint you, but you would probably, everything is comparative and relative, but with today's super steels, you would be having to do sharpening a bit more often. I'm hitting this as hard as I can because I know that the tip can take it. This is a rather thick tip, and this is hardwood. Do not mistake this for some sort of plywood, and it is doing just fine. Drill a hole, obviously, plenty. Doing just fine. Yeah, so it's doing a hole fine. Now I can lay the knife down and go wider if I want. So the tip is fine. The ergos are fine on this knife, and I would argue that if I was to reprofile the cutting edge into a convex, so it would be a saber ending with a convex, it would be that much stronger of an edge, and it would probably hold that edge a bit longer. Quick conclusions. I think this in MagnaCut is badass. In terms of ergos, comfort, size, I actually really like the knife. I do not understand the notch, as I said, and I will test this now on a fire steel. Now I will try the fire steel, if the blade can strike a fire steel well. Okay, that makes sense. So these notches are actually ground to 90 degrees, and I'm using them to strike the fire steel. What that does is it helps you hold the fire steel in one place rather than it slide around on your spine of the blade. It is quite effective actually, but you see, because of this, I never use a fire steel. I always use a lighter. Instead, I've brought my Maratak lighter. What I carry for me is essential. It is always with me. Light source is the Rovivon A8 4th generation Aurora 8 Victorinox, and a Maratak titanium split P lighter. Let me show you how quick and easy it is to light a fire so you don't waste time. By the way, this really cool watch that I'm wearing is a GMT. It is their newer model. There we go. We got fire. I can do this about 20 times with one refill. So there's no comparison. You don't need skills. I know how to make feather sticks, and I do know how to use a fire steel, but nothing comes close to having an actual lighter.
One eternity later.
Okay, so let's conclude now. Let me start with the sheath. I like the innovation. I like the idea and the intent to keep the blade unscratched, but this is not a collection type of blade. This is a blade that is screaming to be used, so it's going to acquire all kinds of scratches throughout its lifetime. So I don't really get the point. And to be honest, I would have preferred something like a thin Kydex 0.6 instead of 0.8. And yeah, that simpler construction, again, something like this looks more appealing to me. But I do have to say this has MOLLE compatible holes in here, which again you can get that in Kydex as well. Long story short, I would have preferred a Taiko style Kydex. I do like this attachment. This is coming all the way from Cold Steel Times, in this 10-15 years ago on several models that I've had from Cold Steel. May even be Andrew Demko's design, I don't know, but wouldn't be surprised because he designed a lot of things with Cold Steel, not only the trad lock. Now, I like the simplicity and ease of use of this. You just unsnap this, you slide this under your belt, this goes over, and then you Velcro plus snap. So you have an assurance, and then plus this side, this is where your belt goes, and then this clip and Velcro is pressed against your body, so there's no way of this coming undone. Okay, so done with the sheath. Let's talk about the knife. The knife, this is again my favorite geometry of blade, regardless of whether this is a fixed blade or even an OTF. This is not a drop point. Yeah, it's a clip point. But you get the point. I like the belly and straight section and a belly, because most of my use knives is camping and bushcraft. This is a universal knife. It's not, it does not excel at bushcraft. It does not excel at surviving 100%, etc. It's a very, very good universal knife. It does all of those things very well. I love the geometry, colors, everything. The handle is extremely comfortable. I've already mentioned in the outside shots that I would have probably preferred an internal plastic, some sort of glass reinforced plastic core that should include this section here to give it rigidity, and probably a butt cap to be plastic, and then the middle, of course, this shock absorption, very nice and comfortable rubber. That would just give it more life, I guess, because this rubber can get torn up if you're working with wood, and you would be working with wood, and I can see people batoning with this. And especially, I couldn't understand the purpose of these notches here, because it does not look like a thumb jimping. There's just too much flat area here, and the thumb still slides. Then I discovered it's for fire steel striking, because you do still have 90-degree edges here. And this actually helps when you start striking the fire steel, whether you're moving the knife or the fire steel. It retains in one section of the knife. It does not slide around when you're trying to draw the fire steel. So I found that extremely useful, actually. What I would have preferred would be this to be the interval between them to be shorter. So these flat areas, just 1 millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters max. And that way you would have probably, instead of 3, you would have 4 notches, all functional for fire steel striking, but at the same time, because these flat areas would be thinner, you would get functional jimping. That's basically the only thing. Other than that, I really, really like the blade, and it is 90 degrees throughout the spine, which helps scraping with the wood, and you already saw that in the outside shots. Now, some competition. This is $149. You apply my 5% discount code, and it comes to about $142 USD. For relatively similar price but higher, this now the BOB, the Tops BOB, which is slightly modified by me, currently costs around $170, $180. This is in carbon steel 1095. So I would, without thinking, take this in absolutely every scenario. You may think, oh well, this is better for bushcraft, etc. I actually have a lot of issues with this handle. And I don't think that this is a well thought out knife, even though it has a Scandi Vex, Scandi whatever blade, and this is fine. Down below, all this is just full of gimmicks, and it's not a good bushcraft handle, etc., etc. I have plenty of issues with this. I do like their Kydex Sheath though. So between these two knives, I would go with this all day, every day. This is made in Taiwan, and you may say, oh, this is US made, that's made in Taiwan, that's why this one costs 180, blah, blah, blah. None of that matters, man, when you need a blade in your hand. What matters is what that blade can do, and this can do way more than this. So that goes out of the way. Now, you can get cheaper options, of course, something like this. This is a 704 Baron, I believe it is called. And it is about half the price of the Freereign. It won't do half the job, and it is not a comfortable handle, and no, I wouldn't recommend it. What can we get for the same price? So this is made in Taiwan. This must be made in China. This is the Holtzmann Congo, and I requested this. I'm very careful about what I select to showcase on my channel, and I try to select and request only the knives that I'm attracted to in terms of geometry, intended use, etc. This is $139 on Amazon. It is in D2 steel, which I do prefer AUS10A. And AUS10A is an improved version of AUS10. This is Japanese, AUS10 is Chinese. This is D2, Chinese D2. China does a fine job with D2. But basically, I like this knife. I don't like the handle. The handle does not have any sort of retention, contouring. It does not have a nice pommel in the end. It does not have the swelling, and this knife asks to be swung. It's a swinging type of blade, thin chopper. And just because of the issue of the handle, I disliked it. Anyway, $140 approximately, same price. $2-3 difference. Plenty of good material, but bad design. The sheath is Kydex, just like I like. This is not genuine leather. It's some sort of artificial leather. It is a gimmick. It is not needed because the retention is very good. And then if you snap this a few times back and forth, this scraper thing flies out, and you will definitely lose this. So as you saw, this has very good retention, and then they still decided to do this. And this is offer, and it gets kick-ass packaging, very nice packaging, etc. So listen, man, what I'm trying to say is if you know how to select a good knife that will serve you for a long time, this is what you will buy. You won't buy this, and you will not buy this. Am I crazy, and am I saying that this is the best knife you can buy for about $140? No, definitely not. There's plenty of knives that are even better than this. But this knife is definitely worth $140 with the current pricing on the market. Now, the knife for camping and universal tasks, the knife to beat for in my collection is this knife. This is actually a Russian made knife. I'm not advertising the brand or anything for my own reasons, but facts are facts. I do actually have a detailed review about this knife and another one made by the same brand. This is CPR steel. It has liners, a 3D contouring, really nice work. Laser etched. This is G10, and the entire thing is convexed from the spine. So this already is better value than anything on the table. Then you add this absolutely awesome, kick-ass, and the best leather sheath that I have, and I have your top brands. So I know what's available on the market, but this is way better and has a plastic insert. So and the thing is, it is the same price, approximately in the same price range as the Freereign. So, and that's only one example, right? So if you know knives, and if you're up to date on the market, of course there are plenty of options. But would I spend money on this? Yes. Would I actually go for the MagnaCut version? Absolutely. I would actually add money to this and buy myself a MagnaCut. I do intend to request a MagnaCut version. Those are hard to get, and they go out of stock very fast. But yeah, I do want to keep the MagnaCut as my personal knife, hard use in my own collection. So I recommend this if you can't shoot for the Magna Cut, but most definitely go for the Magna Cut if you can. Stay tuned, please subscribe. A review for the AD 20.5, a very detailed review is coming up, and many other cool items will also be showcased. Cheers, check out the discount codes in the description below, and have yourselves a good one.